name is Victoria Finley Wolf. I'm the president of the New York City Metro Modern Quilt Guild, and this is a series of quilts that we put together as a challenge to sort of dive into ourselves to figure out what modern quilting is to each of us. Well, we were always looking for a challenge to do as a group. The one thing we found in our group in particular is community. People really want to come together and share what they really enjoy doing, and it's sewing and quilting. So even though we have lots of different styles in our group, we found that was one thing that we could all do together. So at every meeting, everybody brings quilts that they do for the challenge, and we as a group decide what the layout of the quilt will be, and they get quilted and finished and bound by everybody in the group.
Hi, my name's Kim Reinovich, and this is my quilt. Feels so good to be a gangsta. I like humor in my quilts, and I like irony, and to me, I think mixing this traditional cross stitch with with a fun, bright, cheery pink on this traditional print, just really I like the idea of taking a phrase and immortalizing it, but not taking it too seriously. I think my favorite part of the quilt is just the humor aspect, and that it's a little subtle, that it takes a little while to really say, is that what it really says?
My name is Andrea Homer McDonald, and my piece is Evolving Pathway. The lace that was used was inspired by a couple of doilies that I have made by my great aunt, and I love the idea of incorporating things that are traditional but reinvented in a new way. One of the fabrics that I started with are the black polka dots, and the polka dots actually look like antique buttons, so they're a print of antique buttons. What surprised me was finding the ways that the piece itself evolved. I mean, I started, because I wasn't sure how I wanted it to look, I started with the little squares that are in the corners, and then as I kept moving, I didn't think that all of the parts would be incorporated. I actually thought that those were going to be thrown out altogether, and so it was surprising to me to see how everything got worked into one whole.
Hello everyone, my name is Aramika Brown, and this is my quilt Back in Today, and I'm happy to be here at the Sewing and Quilt Expo. So this one, when we were asked to do what modern means to us, I had to think about it, and the first thing I thought about was some of the things in modernism and things from art history that I did while I was in school at some point. And so it made me think about it, and I thought about, well, what does it mean to me? And I thought about, well, what did people do years ago before today? And so I did some research online at the Library of Congress and found some great images, and I found this one with the woman quilting in her smokehouse. And I thought about it and thought about my room and decided to come up with an idea from that. A little more challenging because there was a lot of ideas and things that I wanted to get in there, but very little space in which to do it. I think what surprised me is just the way it ended up. I had one idea with a couple other images that I wanted to use, and then to end up with something that looked like a photograph, and as if you were looking back yesterday and into today. I think that's what was most interesting to me.
My quilt is called Antiquated Updated. The process I use is really based on things that my grandmother did. She was a crazy quilter, but she kind of used a not really traditional way to crazy quilt. She sort of worked a few pieces at a time in a real mishmash of work. And I worked very much the same way, but using the machine instead of hand sewing. And so my idea for my quilt was to use sort of techniques that have been around for a very, very long time, but how do you bring that up to date to make it more you? And so I was incorporating the brighter colors and maybe some more harder angles and a mixture of just what's available now. Well, when I was trying to figure out what modern meant to me, that actually means that I made 4 different quilts before I actually got to this one. I had set about making something that seemed like modern quilting to me, and then I decided it only had like a small portion of it, so I tossed that one aside, and then I made another, and then I made another. And at the time, this quilt was a bed-sized quilt that I was making that was on my design wall. And after making the 3 other ones, and then looking up and realizing that this is really what modern is to me, it's what I was working on at the moment. And so I just literally took it off my wall, out of the quilt, and it became this.